Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our Benny's Bats edition for Thursday, July 28th. Before we get started, we got a little promotion going on here over at RotoCurve. If you go over to rotocurve.com/memberships and you type in the code Benny, you can get $2 off the $7 subscription price that we have to our premium service at the moment. So make sure you get over to rotocurve.com/membership, type in Benny as your code there, and you'll get a little discount on that to try it out for us. What we're going to do here today, as we always do with our Benny's Bat section, is we're going to take a look at each pitcher that's on the mound, try to figure out what their weaknesses are, and then figure out which bats we profile to do the best against them. We only have a 7-game slate here, so there's not a lot of ways to go, and there are some pretty good pitchers on the mound. So I think a lot of these bats are going to be highly owned, but you can always find a couple that slip through the cracks, and that's really what you want to do if you're playing in tournaments. The first game that's up for us is Baltimore at Minnesota. We got Kyle Gibson on the mound from Minnesota. Left-handed bats have a higher average against him, but he is kind of a ground ball pitcher, so he has a high ground ball rate, doesn't give up a ton of home runs, but he can get knocked around. He does give up a decent amount of hits. The one lefty they have on Baltimore that I want to use is Chris Davis, 385 WOBA, 309 ISO. I don't really think he's likely for a home run in this situation, which is usually what we look for from him. He has hit one off Gibson in the past, but like I said, Gibson doesn't give up a lot of home runs, so I think he can make some good contact, driving some runs, but I don't know if he has tournament upside, although his price is still kind of cheap, I think. The other two bats that I'm really looking at here, Manny Machado, righty on righty situations, 384 WOBA, 239 ISO, 3 for 8 lifetime against Gibson already, so he's somebody I want some exposure to. And then Jonathan Scope is somebody else I love in right-handed matchups. People shy away from him, but he's actually better in the righty on righty matchups, and I feel like he always goes low owned. 365 WOBA for him, 236 ISO, 3 of 7 lifetime against Gibson as well, so he's another guy who I think is going to have a good game here. The other side of this game, we got Ubaldo Jimenez, and he's actually been pretty bad this year on the road, much worse on the road than he is at home. Both left and right-handed bats are hitting over 300 against him. He does have more ground balls and less home runs than he did in 2016, but he is somebody who did give up a lot of home runs in the past. The two guys that I'm really looking at on Minnesota, Miguel Sanu is somebody I really like. Righty on righty matchup, 359 WOBA, 233 ISO, has some power. Does hit right-handed pitching well, and like we said, Ubaldo gives up a 300 average even to righties, so it's not like you got to stick with the left-handers in this one. If Max Kepler, the left-hander, is in the lineup, he's somebody else I like. 338 WOBA, huge 281 ISO score, so this guy's got a lot of power, can definitely go yard. Definitely somebody else I think I want to look at in this game. Next game we can talk about is Philly at Atlanta. Aaron Nola's on the mound. Now, Aaron Nola had a really good start to 2016, but he definitely has not been as good lately. He is a high K guy. He is a guy that gets a high ground ball rate, so he's the kind of pitcher that profiles well, low home run rate, the kind of guy that we like for daily fantasy, and he is going up against a bad offense. He's actually tougher on left-handed bats, which, is probably a good thing against this Atlanta team that is pretty lefty dominant. Right-handers are hitting 279 against them. Lefties only hitting 236. Now, Nola has given up 5 or more runs in 5 of his last 6 starts, though. So the only guy I'd look at as a one-off here is Freddie Freeman. 4 of 11 lifetime against Nola with a home run, 373 WOBA, 239 ISO, probably the best hitter they have on the Braves. But I think if you really think that Nola is going to struggle, because like I said, he's given up 5 or more runs in 5 of his last 6 starts, the way to do it is kind of stack up this Atlanta team. Now, Atlanta's not really a team I ever really stack. They don't usually put up a ton of runs. But with the situation being the way it is, I think that's probably the way you want to attack Nola if you want to attack him. Otherwise, other than Freeman as a one-off, there's nobody else on this roster that I really want to put on my teams tonight. On the other side of this game, we got Matt Whistler. Whistler's another guy. He's given up 5 or more runs in his last 3 starts. Left-handed bats have been the way to go after him. They hit over 300 against them last year. Not as good this year, but still, solid numbers. The only real left-handed bat on Philly is Odubel Herrera. I like him a little bit, 351 WOBA. Depending what site you're on, he's kind of expensive, though. I mean, he hits in the top of the order because he does have stolen base upside, but he's not a guy that I really want to pay up for. But again, I do think he's a pretty solid option. Next game, we can talk about St. Louis at Miami. This one's kind of easy. Jose Fernandez is on the mound for Miami. He's at home. He's been an absolute stud at home. They kind of let him go deeper into the game. Every time he pitches at home, he goes at least 7 innings. Sometimes on the road, you only get 5 or 6 out of him. So I do think that he's going to go deep, probably 7 innings at least in this game. 2.54 ERA, 1.03 WHIP, 175 strikeouts in 120 innings. I mean, the guy's basically averaging 1.5 strikeouts per inning. So if you think he's going to go 7 innings today, like I do, you're probably looking at 10 strikeouts, if not more. And, we've seen him do that in the past. I think in his last 8 games, he's got 3 games with double-digit strikeouts. The other games have been like 7, 8, 9. So it's not like he's having bad games for you. Never really gives up a ton of runs. I mean, what else can you say about the guy? I'm not really looking to take any bats on St. Louis today. On the other side of this game, you got Michael Wacha. Right-handed bats actually have a higher average, a higher WOBA against him. So he's a little bit of a reverse splits kind of pitcher. Stanton in righty-on-righty situations is somebody I want to look at. 356 WOBA, 259 ISO. It's only 1 of 2 lifetime against Wacha. Only faced him 1 game. Did hit a double in that game, though. And like you said, Wacha struggles in righty-on-righty matchups. Stanton is the biggest and scariest right-handed bat on the Marlins. So he's somebody I think I want to take a look at. Again, with it being a righty-on-righty situation, you're probably going to get people shying away. So you may get him low-owned on a night where there's not a lot of games. And we all know that Stanton has the kind of upside where he can double dong and win a tournament for you. The other guys I think you'd look at, I mean, the lefties are the ones who hit right-handed pitching well. So guys like but again, Wacha's actually tougher on the lefties than he is on the righties. So, other than Stanton, I don't really think there's a lot of guys I'm looking at in this game. Next game up, the battle of Chicago again. White Sox against the Cubs. Chris Sale on the mound for the White Sox. Now, he's coming off a 1-hit gem against Seattle before he cut up the jerseys and didn't pitch in his last start. I just don't think I'm paying up for him today. I mean, his hits are up this season. He's giving up more hits. He's giving up more home runs. His strikeouts are down. That 1 hitter he threw last game really helped out his whip. But before this game, his whip was getting a little bit high. He's still tough on left-handed bats. But right-handed bats, I think, you can look at some of them. They're only hitting 221 against them. So people are going to talk about a Cubs stack today. I don't think it's a situation where you stack. But he does have a high fly ball rate and gives up home runs. So I think it's a situation where you can look at some of these right-handed bats as one-offs and hope that you pick out the right one that does take Sale yard. You got guys like Chris Bryant, who's probably the top of that list. But you also have Javi Baez, who's hitting left-handed pitching extremely well. The rookie Wilson Contreras can hit left-handed pitching. So like I said, I'm not stacking up Cubs bats like other people are, but I think you can take 1 or 2 of these guys as one-offs and hope that you get the right guys that do take Sale yard because he has been giving up a lot of home runs this year. On other side of this game, we got John Lackey on the mound. Now, I'm not a huge Lackey fan. I mean, he's been serviceable. I don't think you could even say good earlier in the year. I'm definitely not going to say great. I would not pay up for him, even though it is a weak opponent. Lefty and right-handed bats both have a high fly ball percentage against them. Right-handers have actually hit more home runs. They have a higher average. You got a guy like Melky who's 11 of 36 lifetime against them with a home run. He's probably one of the better bats to look at. Adam Eaton, 353 WOBA for him, 2 for 4 lifetime. Probably another guy that I think is in play here. I just really don't like these White Sox bats. So I'm not using Lackey, but I also don't think the White Sox light him up today. 3 games left. The next one is Kansas City against Texas. Cole Hamels on the mound for Texas, and he's got 8 straight quality starts if you take out the 2 starts that he pitched against Minnesota. For some reason, the Twins have his number, but every other start that he's had in his last 10 has basically been like 1 or 2 earned runs. He's gone 6 or 7 innings, gotten about a strikeout per inning, just really solid return he's given us. His numbers right now, 2.87 ERA, 1.29 whip, 120 strikeouts, 124 innings. And he's been lights out to left-handed bats this year. They're only hitting 178. Righties are the way we want to go after him. 246 average, 13 home runs in 96 innings. The problem is the Royals all have bad numbers against left-handed pitching. Their best bat is Lorenzo Cain, who's been out for most of the season. The guy with the highest WOBA since the start of last season on his team is Kendrys Morales, and he's only at a 342 WOBA. And there's only one guy on this team who has an ISO score over 148, and that's Chester Cuthbert, who's at like 184. They really, really do not profile well at all against a pitcher like Hamels, and Hamels has been pretty good lately. So, where he's cheap, I think he's in play. 10K on DraftKings it's a tough pill to swallow. If he was 9K today, I'd probably have a lot of them. At 10K, I think I'm still debating whether or not it makes sense to just go up and get Fernandez instead because he has more upside, especially in the tournament. But if you're looking for a solid cash game play and you have the money to spend, I don't think Hamels is a guy that has a low floor today. I think, his floor is probably somewhere around like 18 to 22 points, and that's going to be pretty good. On the other side of this game, we got Yordano Ventura. Right-handed and left-handed bats both hitting about 250 against them. I guess lefties are a little better, but the big thing that's been killing him is he's been walking a lot of guys. And by walking guys, you throw a lot of pitches. You don't get to go deep in the game. And that's pretty much what's been happening to Ventura this year. He's got a low fly ball percentage, a low home run percentage, so he does keep the ball in the park. But this is a big negative park switch. I mean, he's going from Kansas City, which, eats home runs alive, to a place like Texas where the ball kind of flies out of that place. So I kind of like the bats here on Texas. Righty on righty, I like Beltre. He's 5 of 12 lifetime against Ventura. Somebody I think you can look at. And then I like a lot of the lefties. Jurickson, Profar, definitely in play. Mazzara, Moreland, Odor. Even a guy like Joey Gallo, who they just brought up. I think these lefties are going to be able to tee off on Ventura, and I do expect Texas to put up some runs today. The next game, we got Boston at the Los Angeles Angels. Got David Price on the mound for Boston. Right-handed bat's definitely the way to attack him. 267 average, 12 home runs in 103 innings, which really isn't all that bad. I mean, that's like 1 every 8 innings, so that's fine. He is a high K guy. He is tough on left-handed bats, so like I said, the righties are the way to get him. I think Trout stands out as somebody who profiles well against them. 414 WOBA, 279 ISO. But lifetime, Trout is only 3 of 16 against Price, which is not really good numbers. So I think you can take Trout as a 20 flyer. I don't know if I know I'm not going to be playing him in cash today. I don't think this is the day to play him in cash going up against a pretty good pitcher. Most of the time I love this guy, but again, he does have the upside where he can get you 20, 30 points. He can get a hit and steal a base, score a run. He can hit a home run. He can put up a big number. So tournaments only, but I think Trout is the one bat that I would look at against Price. The other side of this game, you got Jared Weaver. Left-handed bats 278 against him. Right-handed bats 301. He has a huge fly ball percentage, giving up 23 home runs in 111 innings so far this year. I think Boston's going to absolutely murder him today. David Ortiz, 432 WOBA, 346 ISO, big left-handed bat, definitely in play. Mookie Betts, 364, 210 ISO, so he's definitely in play. Jackie Bradley Jr., 380 WOBA, 275 ISO, he's definitely in play. I like the guys that have the home run upside against Weaver, so I'd probably not be using Pedroia and Bogarts. I know they're both solid, and I have no problem if anybody wants to roll them out there, but I'd probably look more for guys like maybe Hanley or Shaw. These guys have more power. They can hit the home run. And like we said, with Weaver giving up 23 home runs in 111 innings, I do want the guys that can take him yard if I'm going to be looking at some of these guys to stack up on Boston. Last game we have is Washington against San Francisco. Johnny Cueto on the mound for San Francisco. Left-handed bats, 253 against them with a pretty high fly ball percentage. In San Francisco, though, I'm not too worried about that, although the two guys we're going to talk about do have the ability to take him yard with that high fly ball rate. You got Daniel Murphy, 377 WOBA, 224 ISO. Only 3 of 17 lifetime against Cueto, though, so not really a lot to back up the fact that he's pretty good against left-handed pitching. Against right-handed pitching. Then you got Bryce Harper, 433 WOBA, 302 ISO. I got another guy, 2 of 7 against Cueto, so it's okay, but it's nothing spectacular. Again, I'm not really looking to take bats against them. I probably would definitely not, and actually, I'm definitely not doing it in cash. I may look at him in tournaments. But again, Cueto's a good pitcher. I don't expect him to get lit up today. On the other side of this game, we got Tanner Roark. Now, left-handed bats have been better against him in the past, but this year they're only hitting 201. And he's usually not horrible to righties, like 230, 240 average, but this year they're hitting 272 against him. I still think lefties are the way to go after him. You can get a guy like Brandon Belt around the 360 WOBA, 200 ISO. Jared Parker, who's been hitting third left-handed bat, actually really good numbers. 418 WOBA, 252 ISO. Again, it hasn't been a ton of innings for him yet, a ton of at-bats, but in the limited at-bats he's had, he's shown us something. So I think Parker's somebody you can look at. And then I like Posey as well. Like we said, he struggles with the right-handed bats this year. Posey's 3 of 6 lifetime, 350 WOBA guy in righty-on-righty matchup. So I think Posey is a viable catcher option today at a position that's really thin on only a 7-game slate. So that wraps it up for our Benny's Bat section for today. Like I said, we are running that promo over at RotoCurve. If you go over to rotocurve.com/membership, You use the promo code Benny in there, and you can get yourself a couple dollars off of a subscription. Check it out. See all the information we have now behind the paywall, and hopefully it'll help you guys win some money. So as always, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and thank you for joining us here at RotoCurve for the Benny's Bats edition. And stay classy, DFS.